Hey, welcome back to Hot Spots with Connor Martinez of John Sporting Goods. This is where in under 10 minutes, we're going to teach you how to fish a certain location on the Puget Sound. We're going to give you tips, tides, some strategies, and the best gear to go out and put more salmon in your boat. So today is all about Kingston. Now there's a couple of components to Kingston. So let's have you talk about Kingston and some geographical features that you need to know first, and then we'll jump right into tides, okay?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, a major thing when you're in Apple Tree Cove, or Kingston, also known as, there's a big bar that sticks out in Kingston. They call it the Kingston Bar. It kind of comes off of Apple Tree Cove Point, and it makes its way south into Kingston. So when you're fishing this bar, you're starting on the northern part of it, and you're trolling almost right to the ferry line. It's a really good way. It holds a lot of bait. That 90 to 120 foot of water is perfect to fish here for blackmouth.
So I'm seeing, and I'm going to have this up on the screen too, I'm seeing it almost kind of look like a U.
Yep.
Or actually a J, because the longer part of that heads further north.
Yep. Right
toward, what would that be, Point No Point, I guess?
Apple Tree Cove Point.
Apple Tree Cove Point.
Yep.
So you're going to come down into, and you got to be careful because the ferries are going to be coming in there.
Yep.
But at the bottom of that J where it comes up, ferries are going to come right in there to the Kingston ferry terminal. So you're telling me that we're going to fish that J in that J pattern, or are we going to fish across the line? Or?
Well, it depends on what the tide's doing. Okay. So when we're going to fish this on the incoming tide. I don't think I said that. You fish it on the incoming tide. So the very beginning of the incoming tide, it's really common for a guy to start up at Apple Tree Cove Point. Okay. And just remember, that's the 9-10 line. So you can't go any further north than that point. You have to stay south of it. But we're starting on that very north end of that bar, and we're trolling towards the ferry. 90 to 120 feet just seems, there's a little tabletop there. It's about 85 to 90 feet, and then it drops off and starts getting deeper. So I'm following that 120 to 90 foot line, and I'm trolling with the tide, which is going to be trolling south. Yep. And as the tide progresses, the further down the bar I'm going to get towards the ferry. So say you're in the middle of the incoming tide, I'm going to be probably halfway down that bar, and by the very last part of the incoming, you could be fishing that J, that U shape in the J, and also you can fish the far bank, which is President's Point. And you'd be trolling east and west at that point. Yeah,
so what you would do there as you head over to President's Point, you're actually going to cross that bar. It drops off in like 300 feet of water. Yep. You're gonna cross and then go over, and it comes up into about what I'm seeing 130 to 87. Yep. And then you follow that same thing. You follow that south.
You're going to be trolling it east and west. You're going to be trolling basically along there's shoreline there. You're going to be trolling parallel with the shoreline there. Parallel and the thinking is by the end of the incoming tide, all of the bait has been pulled to that side of the bar.
Cool. And then same thing, 80 to 120 feet.
Yeah, your normal depths. Now, it's not uncommon for these fish to get pulled out into deeper water, into Apple Tree Cove. Okay. This is always my rule of thumb. I start in 80 to 90 feet of water, and if I'm not marking any bait, I gradually get deeper until I find bait. That's the important part.
Okay, love it. So this particular part of Kingston is tide specific. We talk, it's an incoming tide fishery.
I'm going to fish it on the incoming tide.
Cool.
There's two places I fish on the incoming tide when I'm in this area. It's either going to be Kingston or I'm going to be on the south end of Jeff Head.
And we did a podcast, a hot spots on that one last week. So if you want more information on that, just go ahead and look it up. Hot spots for Jeff Head. Now, so we've got tide, we've got map, some geographical locations for you. Let's talk about gear. Gear. And let's be real clear too. We're talking right now, we have blackmouth, so winter Chinook salmon coming up. But this is the same, you're going to fish it the same way for summer Chinook.
In the summer, you'll fish it the same way, and you almost use the same stuff.
Okay, so we're talking Chinook salmon, Kingston. What's your favorite gear? If you're going to go out tomorrow, well, it's February, so let's say we go out in April and we fish for winter blackmouth over there. What are you going to go ahead and run?
This area is going to hold a lot of herring. So I'm going to try and resemble a herring. And my go-to for herring is the skinny G KILLY MGHEE. This is one of the best. We've ran this for about a year, maybe almost 2 years now. And this one is a tried and true. It catches, every time we go out and that thing's in the water, it catches fish. That's my favorite color. You run the herring aid, which this is how we originally found out about these skinny G's, was running this one. And note, this has the nickel back. It does not have the glow back. And the same with the KILLY MGHEE. But this represents herring and candlefish, sand lance really well.
Yep.
So you're kind of doubling your odds as far as matching the hatch down there.
It's a really light spoon. It just works really, really well in the water. The other thing that I'll tell you too, and it's another tip that Connor and John have given a lot, these spoons come with obviously a hook.
Yeah.
They exchange that hook for what? What do you have on there?
It's an owner Stinger Siwash hook, and it's 3/0. I pull this thing out of the package, I break the existing hook off, and I put that on.
Cool. Okay.
And then we use this spoon for one day. The next morning, I break off that hook and put another one on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most important part of your arsenal, is the thing that pokes the fish.
Yeah, you've heard a lot of fishing guides talk about it. It's one of the cheapest expenses when it comes to fishing, but one of the most important that you do not want to take your eye off. Okay, I see a couple of other things. Hey, when I hear Kingston, I always think plug. Maybe that's just because I've talked to a lot of people that fish there a long time. I live right across from Kingston.
Yeah.
I see you have a plug on the counter.
Super valuable, dude. Especially now, think we're used to fishing this area in March, so it's a little earlier. Now, there's a rumor going around that we may be fishing a little later than March this year. We don't know yet for sure. The state hasn't said yet, but if that's the case, you got to think in your head now the bait's going to be a little bit bigger. So if I'm trying to resemble a bigger bait, especially in a spot like Kingston and Jeff Head, where you have a lot of herring, you could be fishing 5-6 inch herring. That's what those fish could be feeding on. So these 5-inch Tomic plugs work absolutely phenomenal for it. They catch less fish as far as you're not catching as many shakers, but you are eliminating shakers and you're typically catching better fish with these.
Love it. Okay.
I do a 6-foot leader. I use 30-pound leader.
Okay.
I always put a chain swivel on it, and then these Tomic plugs come with the bar that basically goes through the plug. I always add a split ring to it, and that just gives this plug something to rotate off of. Cool. I think that's important.
I love it. And then you can't fish Kingston without at least running a Hoochie.
Yeah.
Right? Bigger profile over there. It tends to do really well.
Exactly.
Oranges have done really well over there for me when I have fish Hoochies.
Yeah, the Silver Horde, it's the OG 236R. This one caught us all by surprise. We started using this like 2 years ago. It's a chartreuse spatter Hoochie, and it has the orange stripe right down the middle of it. Again, your orange is kind of trying to mimic shrimp color. Your squids obviously can resemble squid, or just the size of this profile is going to match larger herring.
Well, we had Captain Paul Kim on not too long ago, and he's a big squidder, right? But he talked about the importance of squid being used as bait feed for salmon. And so,
absolutely.
Now, what do you have underneath that Hoochie? Is that a glow skirt or is that UV?
It's glow.
Yep.
Okay. I put this is actually an Ace High Fly.
There you go.
This is this is a UV Ace High Fly. It has a glow head and a UV body.
Okay.
This squid is glow.
Okay.
And whenever I'm fishing a Hoochie, I'm always trying to have both UV and glow on the same presentation.
Okay.
So I have, UV squid. This is the number 200 Ace High Fly. It's like the ultimate UV Ace High Fly, and then shoved up inside.
And then leader length on your Hoochies?
Hoochies from the back hook to where I tie to my chain swivel is 36 inches.
Okay.
Always. That never changes.
Okay.
When I'm running Hoochies, it's always 36. When I'm running spoons, it's always 42.
Cool. Pound test, you're still running the
30
Seagar
pound.
30?
Yep. Seagar 30-pound orange label fluorocarbon.
And that's the same for your spoons as well?
Yep.
All right, then go back to the spoons. Leader length on spoons, a little bit longer?
42 inches,
42.
Just a little bit longer. Cool. Spoons have their own action, so we're not using so much the flasher to create the action. Hoochies don't have any action, so we're using the flasher to create action with them.
Love it. Speaking of flashers, let's wrap with what kind of flashers do you like to use out there?
I like the Pro Troll Blinky flashers. This is the Morning Mist. This is one of my favorites of all time. Okay. Joey Pyburn got me onto this a few years ago. I always add an orange stripe right down the middle of it. And I don't know if that helps or not, but my Uncle John has done that for 100 years, so I just continue to carry on the legacy. But the Morning Mist is a fabulous one. We'll use that all year until the end of coho season in September. And then the Green Hornet's always a good bet. And I do put an orange stripe on this one too, right down the middle. All
right, so we are under 10 minutes. Closing thoughts. like kind of like a next level strategy, something that you hold in your back pocket for fishing Kingston?
It's a lot of the times it's the same thing. When I'm fishing Kingston, especially on that bar, I want to fish the bottom. That doesn't mean I'm dragging the ball on the bottom. It means I'm hitting it and bringing it up every, maybe 6 feet off the bottom. And I'm checking every minute. That is going to set yourself apart from a lot of, average fishermen.
Yep.
In my opinion, I think that's really important. Also, fishing that bar, don't be afraid to get off the end of the bar and fish that J, especially when that tide starts coming in, with a little more current. Those salmon are ambush predators, man. So they're going to sit on that kind of drop off and let bait get pulled over their head, and that's where they're going to attack.
Love it. I love it. All right. Any questions on this? Throw a question in the comments. I want to encourage you, downtown Everett on Broadway, come in and see the guys at John's. They're always there. If you're struggling with a particular lure or fishery, they're there to get you back on the right track. Maybe, they could take a look at what you're fishing or even talk with you about how you're fishing and help correct it in the moment. So appreciate it, Connor.
Yep. Thanks, Dan.
Let's go find another spot to fish.
There we go.
Okay, we'll see you on the water.